Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery.
So good morning or good afternoon, because actually, even though it's Saturday morning, we're recording this, we are presenting it, I think, on a Tuesday at 4. So this is Friends in Recovery with Jersey Ed, Super Beth, Buckeye, Bambi, and Jersey Ed is not here. I'm pinch hitting, and my name is Jeff Zeizel. Actually, I have my dog Lucy here, but she's sort of out of camera's view, which is maybe a good thing. Time will tell. So this is the Friends in Recovery podcast, and Ed is attending the EPA conference in, Norfolk, Virginia. So Friends in Recovery is a podcast that we put out to help those who are dealing with recovery issues. So either those with the substance abuse issues themselves or family members. It's an opportunity to learn about addiction and recovery and to help each other. So we have ongoing broadcasts. We are working on the steps. Today we actually will be talking about step 10. There is a podcast hotline, the number, and I think it maybe gets presented as a scroll at some point down the road, but it's 800-989-6504. There is a email address it's help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And my understanding is that we are looking for a podcast intern. So if you were interested in being on this and being remarkably famous, because there's like 7 people that watch this, you will be well regarded. And there are people who make donations, and we appreciate those donations. And if you wish to do so, you can Venmo us at Friends in Recovery Enterprises. Or if you are like me and you actually write checks, you can send it to F.I.R.E, F-I-R-E, ouch, it's hot, at P.O. Box 1551. That's actually a great P.O. Box if you're dyslexic. 1551. John Island, South Carolina, 29457. And Friends of Recovery is now part of the F.I.R.E network.
What is the F.I.R.E network, Jeff?
I was just going to say, do not ask me that question, Bambi, because I don't know. But I can fake it. The F.I.R.E network was started many years ago. It was in the Northern California. You've heard of Palisades, California, where the town burnt down. That's the F.I.R.E network. God bless those people. That was pretty awful. So today's topic actually is step 10. We also do have a question of the week. Sometimes we talk about literature that we're using, so we can sort of leave that as an option. And do we have any sober shout outs for anyone? Beth?
Shout out to my friend Gabe, who's going to go to detox this morning.
Oh, great.
Oh, fantastic.
That's fantastic. That takes courage. That's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
So
it's been a long road. So shout out to Gabe.
Way to go, Gabe. We'll have you in our thoughts. And Bambi, any shout outs your way?
Jimmy H had 9 months. He's in our Friends in Recovery little network. He had 9 months on the 1st, and I don't think I gave him a shout out last week. So congrats to Jimmy. I'm 9 months today, so it's a special day for me. Got a new Buckeye jersey, for my 9 months. That's important. When you're Buckeye Bambi, you got to have all the Ohio State paraphernalia.
You should actually have a Buckeye jersey that says number 9. So
that's true.
I don't know. I know Terry Bradshaw was number 9 as a NFL player, but I don't know any Ohio State number 9s.
No, the number 1 was actually Justin Fields, who just left us and now is a QB at the Chicago Bears. So
wow.
Yeah.
Can you say the Bears?
The beds.
Bears.
Yeah.
Bears. No awe.
The Bears. And we would like to let you know that it's you can find us Friends in Recovery at the F.I.R.E network. Look for us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and Snapshot. Friends of Recovery Communities and Adventures. So if you like us, you can subscribe to us and you get the great podcast. So we meet regularly. We have all sorts of interesting topics. We're working through the steps, and occasionally we try to come up with a question of the week. So I do have a shout out, which goes to John C. I run a support group for law enforcement, as well as we do an early recovery group. And one of the cops, not uncommon after they develop some trauma and difficulties on the job, alcoholism and drinking and living hard is part of the culture, good or bad. So fortunately, some of these guys realize that drinking is not helpful. So John has like 267 days as of last Tuesday. So
Wow.
that puts him at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 271 days. So and he comes to the group, and every couple of weeks I said, John, how many days do you have? And I try to guess. I'm always wrong, but I'm usually somewhat close. So we do have a question of the week.
Question of the week.
Which is, what was your favorite childhood memory? So anyone want to take a stab? Beth?
Oh, okay. So I was drunk most of my childhood, but my favorite memory as a child is watching kung fu movies with my dad. And we watched Grasshopper, and he gave me the name of Weed Hopper, and he called me Weed Hopper my whole life. And no matter what happened between then and all, but I just loved watching kung fu movies with my dad.
That's great. That actually is a good memory. Weed Hopper, that can actually have many connotations, but I like the reference. Bambi, how about you?
Well, mine involves my dad too. So I had a pretty normal childhood, 2 older brothers, and we always had cats hanging around our house. And but I didn't have any inside cats. They were just strays that we would feed and take in. And we had been working at this old barn. My dad used to restore houses and stuff, and they had a litter of kittens. And I fell in love with this one kitten, so I snuck it home. And my older brother was in the back seat, and he knew I was sneaking this cat home, and it was starting to meow. So he was making all kinds of noise to cover up this cat. So I kept that cat up in my room for about a week and a half before my dad figured out that I had this cat. And I was sneaking the cat downstairs because I'd run out of the stash of food I had for it in my bedroom. I was sneaking it down and was going to feed it in the bathroom and then take it back up. So I had this overnight bag. And I had zipped the cat up in this little overnight bag that looked like a teddy bear. It was a kid thing. And the damn cat's tail was hanging out the bottom of the bag. It had weaseled its way out. And so I got caught. My dad let me keep the cat. So, which was good. But I just remember, and then he said, I knew that cat was there. I knew you had that cat all along. I don't know if he ever really knew or not, but I thought I was just hot shit getting that over on him for a week and a half.
That's a great story. Did you give that cat a name?
Lila. And
Lila.
She went on to have many litters of kittens, which I ended up getting to keep some of those as well. So, and now I'm a dog person. So go figure. I don't know.
That's so cute. There was a study done a number of years ago. Who's happier, dog owners or cat owners? And a lot of times I'll do a training on some appropriate subject like resiliency or recovery or trauma or something. And I always ask, like, hey, who here has dogs? And people raise their hand. Who has cats? And some people raise their hands. And then I say, who do you think's happier? And it's funny because usually the dog owners always raise their hands. And I said, do you think the cat owners are happy? And I look at the cat owners, some raise their hands, but occasionally there's a cat owner that actually doesn't raise their hand. I always laugh. But there are studies about, actually the answer generally is dog owners, but it's in the eye of the beholder. So people have pets actually live longer. If you have a dog, you tend to live like 10 years longer. It's remarkable because you go outside and you meet other people and you exercise and you have responsibility and accountability and relationship and love and all these wonderful connections. But it is pretty interesting. So I would say my favorite memory, I grew up in New York City, and my mother was a school teacher. And remember the days like you would get like a little container, like a pint or half a pint of milk, and there'd be a little like, now they would put missing children on the sides. But back in those days, the New York Mets were the new team in New York, and you get a little coupon on the side. And if you collected 30 of them and cut them out, you can go submit that and get a free ticket to the Mets games. So
wow.
My mother would actually collect all the containers from the kids, and my brother and I would wash them out and cut them all out. And she had like 20 kids in the class. So every couple of days we had tickets, so we would gather them, and then we would have stacks. Like in a month, we would have it. Each day you can almost get a ticket. So we'd have stacks. We invite all our friends, and we'd take the bus to Shea Stadium and the subway, and we'd walk in and we give these stacks of tickets to the ticket taker, and we get in. But we realized that after the first time we went, he never counted them. So you have to give 30. So my brother and I were pretty savvy kids, New York City kids. We were like, we're not going to give the guy 30. Let's give him 10 or 15 and just like stick some things in the middle and make it look bigger. And we would go all the time, every game, free. And like they never counted. They just still like, these guys didn't care either. They were probably half in the bag anyway, because it was New York. So, but that was my favorite memory. My brother and I would go to the highest seats because they were the worst seats, and always sneak down and get right by the field. So I always tell my sons, like, oh, you're buying expensive tickets. No, buy the cheap ones and go down like we used to do. So today we're going to talk about step 10. And so, step 10 is one of these great steps where, they all have their place. But, when you get to step 10, you sort of like have learned a lot about recovery. So when we look at step 10, it's really the continuing to take a personal inventory, and when we are wrong, promptly admit it. So I always find that's an interesting step because, first of all, the ability to be self-reflective and just constantly, see where you're at allows you to live a much more meaningful life. And you sort of ask yourself these questions like, hey, am I doing this? Is this okay? Am I doing something wrong? I find like it's a bit of a segue. It probably totally like not related, but my wife will always say to me, how do I look today? Does this look good on me? And I would say, that's step 10. You're constantly taking a self-inventory of your clothing, and you want to know how you look. And if you get feedback that it doesn't look well, you actually change it. So maybe that's, maybe there's, we some of us live step 10 in a sort of non-traditional way. But one of the things that we realize in taking stock and what we know in the literature is that there are 4 sort of elements that are typically identified in step 10 that can create difficulties for people. It's fear, resentment, selfishness, and dishonesty. So, the ability to sort of have awareness around those things allow us to just be better people and to own it. But, the other day I had an experience, and so it reminds me of this experience when we're talking about step 10. I'm driving down a local street in Newton, Mass. It's a commercial area, so there's cars that are parked on both sides of the street, and you have to go very slow the way it's set up. So I'm going literally 10 miles an hour, and a mother and her daughter, without looking, just walk right in front of my car, as if like they're walking across the park. Here's Lucy, by the way. Hello, Lucy.
Aw.
I don't know where she's
Oh, what a
very
sweetie.
black. So at nighttime, we have to like put a little reflection thing on her because it's hard to see her. She's a rescue dog from Tennessee. So I actually immediately stopped my car, of course, and it was a beautiful day. It was sunny. I just came back from the gym. It was, 9 o'clock, 9:30. I'm actually going to the gas station to get a sticker for my car. I'm in a really good mood. I just had gone to the gym. I had a cup of coffee. I'm listening to George Benson on a CD. And it's like, oh, what a gorgeous day. And they come right in front of me like, oh my God. And I'm thinking like they don't even look. So as I roll by them, I said, hey, please be careful. And then the woman just turns on me and just starts like, giving me a really hard, like yelling at me, like, wow, you're so perfect. You never make a mistake. You think you like know everything other than that. I said, hey, I'm just trying to keep you safe. And then she goes on and on, just like laying into me. And I'm watching the expression of the daughter, who's probably 15. And I'm really shocked. I'm completely caught off guard. And I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure you're safe. Oh, yeah, sure. You're so perfect. And I'm like, have a nice day. And I drive off. And I remember thinking, like, and actually I said before I left, I said, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? Have a nice day. Then I leave. I could have said a lot of other things, would not have been so nice. And I thought those things. But when I left, I was a little ticked off. And I said to myself, am I going to let this person get in my head? They did for a brief moment of time. And then I actually drove it for a bit. I got to the gas station. I want to get my sticker. I just step out of the car and I just face towards the sun and I take a breath and I just say, I'm just going to let it all go. And it took a little bit of time and I was able to do that. But when we think about, step 10, it's really about, what that means? My dog needs to go to the bathroom. But Lucy, we'll do it in a minute. So but I think it's one of these steps where we often have to sort of have awareness around what how things are impacting us. Do you have any thoughts about step 10, Beth or Bambi?
Well, I do just want to say that poor Beth was just hit by a truck, literally.
Oh my God.
Physically, I mean, walking, she was hit by a truck. So, and I don't think it was her fault. I don't think she walked out in front of the truck. I think the truck hit her.
Oh my God. That's pretty awful. Are you okay, Beth?
I am now, mostly. I think I need to get some chiropractic stuff, and it just hit my whole left side. So
Oh my God.
I think I need
Sorry.
to get, yeah, no, it's fine. But it's interesting that you said that, Bambi, because I'm stuck. We've got a lot going on in October. We're buying a house, we're moving, our wedding anniversary, my birthday, my daughter's birthday. Like, we have a lot of stuff going on. We need to pack, we need to get shit done. And
That's
I can't. I've been stuck since I got hit.
That's terrible. I'm letting the dog out. So do you have like injuries that you use like any treatment for?
No, I mean, no. I'm gonna have to see a chiropractor, but like spiritually and emotionally, like I've been stuck since I got hit. Like stuck. Like I can't pack. It takes me like an hour to motivate and get up and out of the bed. Like I'm tense all the time. And
So is that because so that's when you're stuck because you just have like this fear and anxiety? It's not because you have a physical injury. It's like from the neck up.
yes. Oh yeah. This is all in here, and I can't get out of it. And dude, I gotta pack. So I don't know. I was all motivated and I was all excited, and we got boxes and we got all this stuff. We're planning and we're moving in the right direction. And I got hit by the truck, and then I've just been stuck ever since. And I've done a lot of 10 steps with people I love in the rooms over the last couple of weeks, just because I just can't get out of it. I'm stuck.
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's really about acute trauma. So when you get traumatized, it sort of throws you off your game, and then you just can't get out of your own way because you replay it over and over. You're probably sleeping poorly, I would imagine. So, and hopefully you sleep well. But a lot of people get those events. It's pretty horrific. But it's interesting because in the context of this step, are you going to let this external event control your life? Now, sometimes we have, I would say we have limited, if not zero, control over most things in our lives. Like I just take the approach like I can't control a thing, and so I'm never disappointed when something doesn't go my way because I just expected not to, which is sort of a weird dynamic because, I see myself as a positive, optimistic person, but it's about balance. It's about like there are things I can control and the things I can't. And I just remind myself, I don't have to be right. I don't have to get the last word in. I can let things, I try to let things go. Some days are harder than others. But I can see how one can have tremendous resentment about getting, against the driver, this stupid guy, he hurts you. And then, then you have fear, so also not a great response, a normal, I mean, we all have fear about things, but, it's hard to sort of balance that. but it's interesting reference, because we're talking about how, it's really about letting go and self-care, and take a inventory of yourself and try to make it, admit if you're wrong. And sometimes you're not, if you're walking across the street and a truck hits you, brushes by you, that's not inherently your fault, it's the truck driver. But I'm so sorry
and
you went through
but
that.
and I feel bad for the guy. Like, I feel really bad. It was a mistake. Like,
Yeah,
he made a mistake, and like, I get it. I'm just mad. I'm mad. You know what I'm mad about? I'm mad that I'm stuck.
yeah, right,
So it's this like
Yes.
perpetuating
yeah,
cycle where I'm mad that I'm stuck, and then it perpetuates being stuck, and it's
right,
like I can't get out of that loop. And like, no matter how many times, like, so I will, right? So step 10 for me is, first I pray, and about where I'm in this very moment, and I'm like, God, please get involved and help me see where I can be of service here. And if I can't get past it, I'll call somebody in the program and I'll say, this is what's going on, and they'll give me some service to do. And then I'm supposed to turn my thoughts to somebody I can help. And I keep doing that, and it gets me out of that like moment. Like, it helps me move through my day, but then I get home when I'm supposed to like be packing and doing other stuff, I'm exhausted.
yeah,
Like, I'm just exhausted. I just want to go to sleep, which is my stress response, is to
yeah.
sleep.
Yeah,
So,
and that's actually a normal response. So people get exhausted because they they go to the gym, or they're doing physical labor, or they are building homes, or working in the yard, or they're just doing something physical. They go to the gym, etc. But a lot of us get exhausted because we're just stressed out, and we're straining our minds and our brains to like deal with issues, and we just feel overwhelmed. My neighbor's having work done in their house. You can hear the power tools. Maybe I'm going to close the door. Yeah,
I thought somebody was making a steamed cup of coffee.
yeah. The dog is out there somewhere. Hopefully, it won't run off. She's usually pretty
She'll
good.
come back.
Yeah, I think so. Um, but the interesting thing is that when we're dealing with those types of events, it really, sometimes that's when we need to ask for help from other people. That's like, so we think about like reach out to a sponsor, or a loved one, or your partner, spouse, and like, I'm having trouble. So I often think that when people are stuck like you are, and they're just having all these these sort of dynamics playing out, sometimes what gets you unstuck is just do one thing. We tend to always think like, oh, I got to move the house, I got all these rooms to move and everything to pack, and wherever you look it's overwhelming. But if you just do one thing, it sort of opens it up. It's like, you're to shout out to Gabe, or the first day is the hardest day, like, or even before the first day, the night before the first day, thinking about going to treatment is like one of the hardest days. So sometimes just pack one box. So famous Hindu proverb: "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." And what are we saying? In AA, one day at a time.
Mhm.
But step 10, is one of these dynamics where it's really also about we try to evolve as people, try to be the best people we can be, and just be aware. And it's like, the steps are like painting a bridge. You get to step 12 to start all over again. It's just about the evolution of these things. Bambi, do you have thoughts about step 10
Yes.
as well?
For me, step 10, I was told when I got out of rehab that, it was never too soon to start a step 10, to start doing that spot check every day. And so like my normal routine now, I get up and I do a little inventory in the morning. I kind of plan my day with God. And then it's much more, I am so much more aware now. I It's hard to even imagine how many, if I was aware a year ago, my God, I would have been stopping all throughout the day. I had no idea all the things, but now it's so much more readily apparent when I'm starting to be dishonest, or if I'm being selfish, or, self-centered. I mean, it's like, it just pops out at me and I'm like, damn, you're doing it again. You got to stop that shit, and making amends immediately and get back on track and focus on what's right and wrong. But I had always thought I was a pretty damn honest person until I started working the program, realized, oh my God, the things that I would lie about that I didn't even know I was lying about. Or let myself realize I was lying about, but now it's like, boom, in my face.
And it's interesting because a lot of times we often feel like we know better. We're the smartest person, or like someone ticks us off and like, what, what an idiot, and so on and so forth. And you sort of, you go down that rabbit hole and you just repeat those things over in your head. I was talking to someone yesterday. It wasn't essentially about step 10, but it was like the same sort of conversation we're having about anger and anxiety. And I said something like, anger and anxiety and depression and other challenges, it's like having poison ivy. The more you scratch it, the worse it gets. Sometimes if you separate yourself from it, you don't go down that. So what happens when we think we're right, we just go on. And that person, and another thing, I can't believe they did this. We can allow ourselves to have a feeling, but we don't have to run with it all day long. We can have a bad moment, but it doesn't have to be a bad day. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. 86,400 seconds. So someone like insults you for 20 seconds. Are you going to allow the remaining 86,000 and change seconds to be ruined in that entire day? So think about your experience, Beth. Unfortunately, you get hit by this truck and it impacts you. And sometimes we get impacted, psychologically, sometimes physiologically, sometimes both. And we have to, step 10 is an appropriate step to just remind ourselves, okay, like, so what's going on with me? Like, how am I feeling? And the great thing is you have tremendous self-awareness about it. So where this is coming from. The challenge is, how do you change it? And sometimes, I like, sometimes you start your day with prayer, or you identify what you want to do, or you just, have a little self-talk. Like, I have my own personal mantras I repeat in my head. Like when I'm in the shower, I say, all right, give him hell today. Like, I look at life, it's a beautiful thing, but it's hard. So, it's both. It's a bit of a paradox. It's beautiful but hard. All right, well, that's true. And I think it's true. It's true for me. Others may see it differently, but if we know that something is difficult, we can actually prepare ourselves for it. I often say, people get upset and frustrated when they expect everything to go smoothly. So, and that's probably what you're experiencing, Beth. And I've been there a million times. I was actually supposed to do a real estate closing yesterday. I have an office. I'm selling it. It's a condo. I'm just going to move and rent. And everything got screwed up. And people say, boy, you're remarkably calm. I said, yeah, I've been down this road before. I never expect real estate closings to ever be smooth. And all the brokers are all flipping out and like, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I'm staying very, very calm because I'm not projecting negative thoughts. I say, all right, this will work itself out. Everyone's on the same team. It's not like I don't have the fear of like, oh my God, it's going to fall apart. I don't think so. And if it does, I'll deal with it. But then I may flip out. But it's interesting to sort of like try to stay on path. And some days it's easier than others. So right now, Beth, it's hard for you. And hopefully it does get easier. But you have good practice. I mean, the things that help you.
Yeah.
And you probably have support from others.
I'm grateful.
So how do you
I'm
move the
definitely
house?
grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of the Hindu proverb, one bite at a time, it's probably one box at a time.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is exactly what I'm doing because I'm packing up stuff. But it's interesting, the process of all these like mistakes happening and everything sort of gets undone. I'm like, all right, well, eventually it sorts itself out. And am I going to allow the idiots at a local bank who like screwed the documentation up to like ruin my day? It's easier to go down that path, but I didn't. I was too busy like doing other things. So I'm like, oh, I'll deal with that nonsense later. But it is interesting how, the ability to sort of like constantly do a self check just keeps us healthy. Like
absolutely it does.
And, I think it's important that, for people in recovery to like always monitor themselves, like, is this going to contribute to a potential relapse? Is this going to is this a trigger that will want me to use? And I'm so pissed off and hurt. And like, and life is hard every day. There's always things that push us, and if we realize that we overcome those things, we actually then that's the gift. That's what we get from, that the adversity, so I'm from the school of thought that says adversity is good, So sometimes a little too much, like getting hit by a truck, not so good.
It's a little
Any
excessive.
other thoughts or comments? Because we're going to probably wind down, I believe.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate the feedback, and I'm going to pack one box this afternoon. And my best friend is in from South Carolina, and she slept over last night. So we're going to have a nice long breakfast and process. So yeah, and then I'm going to pack. I'm going to pack today.
Good for you. Where do you live, Beth?
I'm in New Jersey. I'm in Union County, New Jersey.
Oh, great. Okay. We know Bambi.
Right outside of the city.
Right. Perfect. My stomping grounds. And we know Bambi's in the Midwest, which is why she's so nice, because people from the Midwest are much nicer than people from the East Coast, aren't they, Beth?
It's so true. We're not nice, but we're kind.
Yeah, my husband wouldn't agree with that.
Well, I'm not going near that one. So
I have to 10th step with him a lot. I'm like, oh shit, I did it again.
just let this go. Let this go. But we know that, these podcasts, are supposed to be educational and helpful. And of course, if there's an element of entertainment, it always makes it a little more palatable, I think. But, so Friends in Recovery, Jersey Ed is not here. Hopefully he will be around for the next podcast. I'm sure he will, but we're going to enjoy the day. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, be sober, enjoy the journey. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.